Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Forgotten Heroes on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for Forgotten Heroes, Mike Goodpaster, and today we're going to talk about Cincinnati Reds pitcher Billy McCool. Now, McCool was once one of the most promising pitchers in all of baseball, a teenager with a fastball that was often too much for major leaguers even to handle. But bad luck and injuries derailed his career before he even turned 25 years old. McCool was born July 14th, 1944, and he was raised in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, a border town of about 5,000 on the Ohio River, only 20 miles from Crosley Field in Cincinnati. Major League rosters later correctly identified his place of birth as nearby Batesville because Lawrenceburg didn't have a hospital at the time. Bill was a great athlete at Lawrenceburg High School, a fullback on the football team and a star on the basketball team. The baseball field is where he would leave an enduring mark. However, he hit over 400 every season and compiled a pitching record of 18-2, 7-0 as a senior at Lawrenceburg High School with three no-hitters. Old-timers from the area would long remember his fastball as simply too much for high school hitters. One person once said, people used to say you couldn't believe his fastball. It was so overpowering. McCool's high school career landed him in the Indiana High School Hall of Fame in 2013. Upon accepting the award, McCool said, "Coaches are the one who counts. Most of the credit for what I was able to do later as a professional baseball goes to Pat O'Neill, who coached me from the time I was 9 years old in Little League through Knothole, high school, and American Legion baseball." O'Neill was a legendary baseball and football coach who himself was enshrined as an Indiana Hall of Famer. A strict disciplinarian as well as an innovator, O'Neill recognized young McCool's strong arm and helped develop his pitching talent. One of O'Neill's favorite teaching devices was a rope lattice work he hung over home plate. He then had his pitchers try to hit the knots on the corners. McCool was 26-4 in 2 years of American Legion ball, throwing 2 no-hitters and averaging 14 strikeouts a game. In the 1961 Indiana American Legion tournament, McCool and Lawrenceburg led Rockport 2-0 when he was hit in the head by a pitch while batting in the 7th inning. On the mound the next inning, still clearly affected, he gave up a walk, 2 hits, while another batter reached on his error, resulting in 3 runs. He lost the game 3-2 despite giving up only 4 hits and striking out 17. Now, I got to interview legendary pitcher Tommy John, who was from the Evansville area, who actually played in that American Legion tournament also and knew McCool well. It said McCool was one of the best pitchers he had ever seen, and if it wasn't for arm injuries, Billy McCool could have been a Hall of Famer, and that's straight from Tommy John, the great former Dodger and Yankee pitcher. Now, these were the days before a baseball draft. 14 teams courted McCool, and he chose the Cincinnati Reds. Although the Reds were essentially his hometown team, he later said that had little to do with his signing. The confident youngster said he looked over major league rosters for left-handed pitching, and since the Reds only had 3 lefties and 2 of them were in the 30s, he felt he could get to the majors sooner with the Reds. He was signed by Red scouts Buzz Boyle and Cliff Polking for what he later termed a small bonus. McCool met with frustration in his initial professional experience. Assigned to Tampa, the Class A Florida State League, he started off 1-8 in his first. He started off 1-8. In his first 3 games, the team made 13 errors behind him. They gave him 4 runs of support during the next 5 games. He lost 1-0 July 18th, 1963, when his opponent threw a no-hitter. McCool grew discouraged and at one point called his parents and considered quitting and coming home. He commented that his high school team had been better than the Tampa squad. Tampa's manager Hirsch Freeman, a star reliever for the Reds in the 50s, consoled the kid. And McCool later said, he pointed out to me that I wasn't giving up many runs even though I was losing. He explained to me in the minors, a pitcher's ERA carries almost as much weight as his win-loss. McCool's minor league ERA was indeed impressive. A cool, so to speak, 2.01, second in the league. He compiled a record of 5-13 at Tampa with 165 strikeouts in 148 innings. That performance earned McCool a September promotion to AAA San Diego, where he was a blazing 4-0 with a 1.04 ERA and 4 Pacific Coast League starts. After the impressive showing in San Diego, The Reds wanted to bring McCool up to the minors when the 1963 PCL season ended. They were flabbergasted when McCool turned them down. He told them that his arm was tired. He had felt as though he was throwing a watermelon during his final start in San Diego. I didn't want to join the Reds if I couldn't be at my best, he later explained. McCool was barely 19 years old and had been out of high school less than a year when he made the Reds coming out of spring training in 1964. Manager Fred Hutchinson told reporters that although he was impressed by the youngster, he planned to bring McCool along slowly during the season. McCool did not lack for confidence and was not surprised by making the big league club so soon. In 2009, McCool said, "I had a pretty good idea I would make the team that year. I had a pretty good year in the minors the year before. I knew what I could do." His first major league appearance came against the Giants in Cincinnati on April 24th, 1964, during a 15-5 blowout loss. When asked if he was nervous staring down Cepeda, McCovey, and Mays as a teenager, he replied, "I was never intimidated by anyone. I just went right at them." In 2 innings of work, McCool gave up 2 hits, 2 walks, and a run, and recorded 2 strikeouts. The 6'2", 195-pound McCool was a left-hander with a live arm and excellent control. He had a silky smooth wind-up, and a delivery made his heater deceptive. It was described as sneaky fast, and it gave major leaguers trouble from the start, as it often tailed in on right-handed hitters and shattered their bats. Teammates in the press called him Cool Billy. Hutchinson was impressed by the poise McCool showed and gradually began using him in key situations. McCool's first major league victory came in Milwaukee on June 2nd. In the clubhouse after the game, veteran pitcher Joe Nuxall, the old left-hander, laughingly told anyone who would listen that when the Peach Fuzz McCool walked off the field, he said, "Boy, that Joe Torre scared the hell out of me when he came to the plate. I bet he hasn't shaved in 2 weeks." McCool's second major league victory came a month later on his 20th birthday, and he celebrated with a birthday cake in the clubhouse after the game. That season, as the Reds battled in a tight pennant race, McCool and rookie pitcher Sammy Ellis continually displayed cold-blooded relief pitching in late innings, and they formed one of the best righty-lefty combos in the league. At one point, McCool had a stretch in which he went 10 appearances without giving up a single run. On July 4th, he took over for O'Toole in the 9th of a 3-2 game and struck out the side. On August 21st, he entered to replace an ailing Jim Maloney in the 3rd inning with the Reds leading by the run on the road against the Los Angeles Dodgers. He struck out 9 in 6 innings to finish the game, giving up just 1 hit and 5 walks as the Reds hung on to win 3-2. No Dodger reached third base on McCool. Pitching coach Jim Turner called it one of the finest relief pitching jobs ever done by a youngster. On September 3rd, McCool struck out 7 of the 9 batters he faced in 3 innings against the Chicago Cubs. His debut as a starter came on September 19th, 1964. He pitched well but lost 2-0, both runs scored on a throwing error by catcher Don Pavlovich. The 1964 season was one of drama and tragedy for the Reds, as popular manager Fred Hutchinson was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer and attempted to make it through the season. The Reds stayed close to the top throughout the summer, then mounted a late charge. They won 9 straight, September 20th through the 27th, and caught up to the Philadelphia Phillies. With their ailing manager watching from the press box, the Reds then faltered in its final homestand. On the last day of the season, the Reds lost and allowed the Cardinals to sneak in the back door to steal the pennant. Relying mostly on his fastball, McCool finished the 1964 season with a 6-5 record, an ERA of 2.42, 87 strikeouts in 89 innings, and 7 saves. He was named the National League's Rookie Pitcher of the Year by the Sporting News. And even though he was one of the youngsters in the league, McCool was always confident to the point of arrogance on the mound, and not infrequently showed his emotions after a poor outing, once memorably destroying the dugout water cooler after giving up a home run in the season finale in 1964, prompting an emergency call to the maintenance crew as water from a pipe poured over the field. The new water cooler for the 1965 season was noted to be encased in an iron bar cage. Now, the Reds wanted McCool to go to Venezuela for winter ball in 1964, but he declined. He explained to a reporter that his arm was tired. I don't like pitching year-round. Anyways, they always seem to have trouble down there in South America, like shooting up guns and blowing up things. In 1965, new Reds manager Dick Sisler said that his long-term plan for McCool was to make him a starter, but that the rotation was already set with proven veterans. Although McCool's curveball remained mediocre at best, by 1965 he had added a better-than-average slider. Opponent Ken Boyer would remark the next season, that slider he's throwing now is the best I have ever seen a lefty have. McCool was the mainstay of the Reds' bullpen for 1965, appearing in 62 games. A couple of bad outings in August and September, particularly one in which he gave up 4 earned runs in a third of an inning, caused his ERA to reflect poorly on his year. He finished the season with a record of 9-10 and an ERA of 4.27 with 21 saves, and was second in the league's Fireman Award, an award annually given by the Sporting News in which saves and wins are added together. He lost by 1 point. The Reds were close to the top of the standings most of the 65 season, but it slipped away late. McCool played a role in the collapse as he gave up a 3-run homer in the ninth to rookie Chick Harrison in the Astrodome on September the 26th to lose 4-2. A win would have left the Reds only 2 games out. The Reds lost 7 of their last 9 games and finished in 4th place. Sisler was fired on October the 4th and was replaced by Don Hefner, a favorite of owner Bill DeWitt. During the 1960s, few pitchers wanted to be a reliever. Although McCool was vocal about not wanting to spend his career in the bullpen, it was his misfortune to be on a Reds team that was loaded with veteran starters. In 1966, he once again got off to a blazing start, giving up only 3 runs in his first 28 innings over 15 appearances. With the Reds floundering in 8th place, 9 games under 500, Dave Bristol took over for Hefner July 14th. This marked the 4th manager in 3 seasons for McCool. McCool was named in a 1966 All-Star team but did not play. He finished the season with a team-leading 2.48 ERA, 18 saves along with 104 strikeouts in 105 innings. He was only 21 years old and his future seemed to hold greatness. But late in the 1966 season, he injured his knee. He took a few weeks off, but the knee was still swollen and tender when he returned to pitch. He soon developed what was referred to by the trainer as tendonitis in his left elbow. He again sat out a week, but not long after returning, he left the game complaining of a strained left shoulder. It was the beginning of the end for McCool. I caught my spikes in the rubber in Pittsburgh and tore some cartilage in my knee, he said later. Back then, they didn't want to operate. I'm left-handed, tore the cartilage in my left leg, or left knee, my push-off leg. They tried to medicate it, tried to drain fluid off the knee. I came back, but it totally changed my motion. You're not pitching the way you always have your whole life, and you get wild. It started to affect my arm, and calcium deposits formed. That was the beginning of my demise. If it happened today, I would have been back within a month, good as new. But that is just not the fortunes of the game. Things happen. Dave Bristol had said at the end of 1966 that McCool would be considered for a starting role in 1967, and he went to camp as a projected part of the rotation. He started the season 3-1 in his first 5 games with an ERA of 1.77. The one loss was a 2-0 decision in which he pitched a 2-hitter. Then he didn't win in his next 6 starts, a span in which he lost 2, but his ERA was still only 3.2. He was sidelined for 10 days with a swollen left wrist in June. McCool started on June 13th, lost, and then was sent to the bullpen. He was placed on the disabled list once again in July. In the meantime, 18-year-old Gary Nolan and Mel Queen established themselves as starters in the rotation. When added to veterans Jim Maloney and Milt Pappas, there was just no room left when McCool returned. His chance as a starter was gone forever. He finished the year 3-7 with a 3.42 ERA in 32 games, 11 as a starter, with 83 strikeouts in 97 innings. It was the first time in his career that he was not close to averaging a strikeout per inning. Over the winter following the 1967 season, McCool had been listed as an untouchable his first 3 years, was put on the trading block by new general manager Bob Howsam. It was insinuated to Cincinnati reporters that Howsam was disappointed that McCool had not made a determined effort to improve himself. He still had not developed a suitable off-speed pitch to complement his fastball and slider, and that, along with the injuries, doomed his chances as a starter. The Reds found no takers for McCool. However, in the spring of 1968, McCool expressed his disillusionment to Reds beat reporter Earl Lawson about his chances in being caught in a shuffle with the other Reds starters. Sometimes I wish baseball had a rule which permitted a player to play out his option as it does in pro football. I'm only 23 and I'm not through, but I will be in a few years if I continue to pitch in relief, McCool said. McCool had several times mentioned that he believed relief pitchers who throw mostly fastballs had a very short life in the major leagues. The hard luck McCool contracted pneumonia during spring training in 1968, and it cost him almost 2 weeks. Then he got a sore shoulder trying to push back into shape to make up for that lost time. The shoulder would bother him all season, rendering him ineffective. He was 3-4 with an ERA of almost 5 in 50 innings. After 2 subpar seasons, McCool was left unprotected in the October 1968 expansion draft and was grabbed up by the San Diego Padres. McCool actually welcomed the move, hoping for a fresh start. Pitching for an expansion team, of course, is not always for the faint-hearted. However, the Padres were miserable, and fans stayed away for the most part in droves as the team averaged like 6,000 people a game. They had an 11:55 stretch from June 6th to August 17th and finished 52 and 110. McCool was plagued by arm trouble all year. He was on the disabled list in April with a sore shoulder. In May, he noted that he was still not able to cut loose and throw hard. He was on the 21-day disabled list in May, then missed 2 weeks for military duty in August. He injured his foot in September and was lost for the year. Finished the season with a cast on his foot after an operation. He posted a 3-5 record with an ERA a little over 4 in 54 games. He was traded by the Padres on April 2nd, 1970, to the Cardinals for infielder Steve Huntz. McCool was 0-3 with a 6.23 ERA at 18 games for the Cardinals and spent most of the 1970 season in AAA with their Tulsa team. In October 1970, he was traded to the Red Sox, who in turn traded him to the Royals on February 19, 1971. He split the 1971 season between AAA Portland and Omaha, going 1-1 with a 3.6 ERA in 23 games. He never made it back to the majors and retired after that season. Now, McCool went on to marry, he got married off of somebody he met through Pete Rose on a double date. And, during the 1964 season, McCool had operated a pharmacy in his hometown of Lawrenceburg with his brother-in-law, Ken Jansen, who was a pharmacist. McCool and his roommate, Jim O'Toole, attended the grand opening, signed autographs for customers, and McCool would go on there to work for several years in the off-season. After retiring from baseball, McCool worked as sports director of WKEF-TV in nearby Dayton from 1972 to 74. Then he went into the steel business for 31 years. He and his wife, a longtime elementary school teacher, retired to Summerfield, Florida, in 2005. McCool had had a long battle with heart problems and had first been diagnosed with hypertension when he was in his 20s. He had triple heart bypass when he was 45. He died June 8, 2014 in Somerville as a result of that heart condition. He and his wife had 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and had been married 47 years at the time of his death. So today's forgotten hero was Billy McCool, and I remember my dad would always talk about Billy McCool because I was born in Aurora, Lawrenceburg's right next to it. He would always tell me what a great pitcher he was, and the relief pitching is what got him because he said 64, 65, it seemed like even the games he didn't pitch, he was up warming up all the time, which puts a lot of stress on your arm. If Billy McCool pitched today with modern medicine, the technology to be able to repair his problems, maybe everything would have been totally different. So that's today's forgotten hero, Cincinnati Reds pitcher Billy McCool. All right, guys, make sure you follow me at Grueling Truth. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you find podcasts. You'll find The Grueling Truth. So for now, this has been Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.